Donald Trump wants to destroy not only the city, but the country.
Yeah, he's so stupid.
De Niro is always poised to cast his line and reel Trump into a new provocation. Make no mistake, we're not talking about one wrecked city. He's tearing apart the entire country. And with a bit of bad luck, the planet as well. I'm not exaggerating, my friend. If you see Trump as some divine gift, brace yourself. He's strapped a ticking time bomb to the nation's neck. Don't twist De Niro's words. He never claimed Trump was just any guy. The destruction he drags behind him eclipses the worst nightmares. Each time Trump steps outside the White House, it feels like a nuclear blast detonating in America's collective mind. When De Niro paints a world on the brink, he isn't kidding. He insists this superhero system could turn us into subjects of a reckless empire. Trump never should have reached the presidency, period. We're at a decisive moment. He appeared, spoke, acted, and we keep repeating, this is awful, everything's wrong. Yet he presses on. The day after his win, I thought, let's give him a chance. Who knows? But he turned out far worse than I ever imagined. De Niro doesn't hesitate to call him a mob boss, not some petty thief stealing bread, but a capo who rigs the whole system, shrugging off advice and criticism alike. One of the most beloved voices among us sternly reminds the public that Trump is making everything worse at a frenetic pace. While we sit and watch him smash politics, the economy, and principles we thought unshakable. Living in today's America, you can't help wondering, is this a sick joke, or is our social fabric truly coming apart? Trump surrounds himself with people even duller than he is, muddying the water and convincing the crowd he cares. I'm stunned that a sizable chunk of the nation believes him. After decades watching, we see a malignant narcissist, a sociopath. We've had to forge new words just to describe his mindset. He's as terrifying as he is dangerous. He has to go. No politician has ever challenged social values this way, and De Niro was first to point it out. Malignant narcissist and sociopath are labels for severe psychological issues, and De Niro uses them without blinking. It's no rash judgment. It reflects the massive risk Trump poses. Asking whether Trump has invented his own language might sound funny, but it isn't. He's twisted the notion of truth over and over, shaping every sentence to suit him. It isn't ignorance, just utter indifference to reality. Lincoln said, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Under Trump, that ideal evaporates. A celebrity criticizing him isn't news, but when De Niro and Freeman do it, it matters. They see a strange bloc convinced Trump cares, even as his words undermine the nation's foundations. De Niro is baffled by such blindness. How can anyone think this man protects the people, yet millions regard him as their only ally? It's chilling to witness a power base built on ignorance and the haze of his rhetoric. And that's why voices like De Niro's rise louder, sensing the danger in those hollow proclamations. The childish nicknames, the bizarre conspiracies, the obsession with crowd size. I heard someone liken him to the neighbor who fires up a leaf blower every minute under your window. From a neighbor, it's exhausting. From a president, it turns dangerous. Trump is that constant racket you can't escape. Always there, shrill, making you want to smash the machine. But you have to endure it all day. From silly epithets to imaginary triumphs, Kimmel lands the perfect jab, comparing him to that relentless neighbor spewing nonsense nonstop. Seemingly harmless, right? Yet he's clogged American politics for years. That's Kimmel's genius, puncturing Trump's supposed greatness with a leaf blower metaphor. If that's leadership, maybe it's time to cut the power. For Kimmel, Trump and his eternal blower are one gigantic joke. Let's be honest, last night was grim. Terrible for women, children, the hundreds of thousands of immigrants who keep this country running. For healthcare, the climate, science, journalism, justice, and free speech. A bleak night for the poor. the middle class, retirees who rely on Social Security, and our allies in Ukraine. Kimmel strikes on another front, acting. Remember The Apprentice, the show where Trump pretended to be a genius CEO? Would that company survive if he were truly the boss? No. The empire nearly sank from the start, propped up by a gleaming facade. Trump wasn't a brilliant mogul. He was the cold-eyed guy pulling Hollywood tricks so we'd believe in his genius. The Apprentice was a rotting wooden boat he tried to pass off as the Titanic. Kimmel capsizes it, showing how a man faking that hard could land in the White House. A masterclass in caustic humor. He casts Trump as a bit-part actor, scowling whenever anyone questions his deals. Mr. Speaker, members of Congress, please welcome Bib Boss Don, Manuel Mussolini, Captain Bone Spurs, Mr. Marlardo, the Big Hog, General Dirty Pants, Putin's Pocket, His Gaseousness, the President of the United States, Donald Jelly Belly Trump. Good grief, Melania, always cold as marble, eyes sharp as blades, yet no one noticed that edge. She sat silent while Trump forced a grin to fend off the stares of Kimmel and Obama. How to hide when everything looks like political satire? For the first time, she couldn't mask her irritation. Her eyes screamed, "I can't take this anymore." Her silence wasn't calm. That frosty look was a mask concealing smoldering fury. Kimmel and Obama laid everything bare, and Melania, present, could do nothing but stare as if to say, "I have no idea what to do." Trump's plan is a rerun. Another massive tax cut for billionaires and corporations. Some reply, "Well, the economy wasn't bad when he arrived." Sure, it was my economy, Obama notes. I handed him 75 straight months of job growth. He did nothing. I spent 8 years cleaning the Republican mess, and Trump showed up for the ribbon cutting. His cuts were candy for the mega rich. Ordinary people got higher living costs. Obama says it plainly. He worked tirelessly to lift the economy from rubble. Trump undermined that progress while patting himself on the back. Look closely, and only the wealthiest won. Trump was hawking a product stuffed with empty promises. Canada has just fired a shot that rattles the U.S. auto industry. Is America's dominance finished? In March 2025, Trump slapped a 25% tariff on Canadian cars to shield domestic makers and trim the deficit. Prime Minister Mark Carney hit back harder, targeting EV parts, battery minerals, and cross-border components vital to Tesla and Ford. U.S. plants stalled, dealers were empty, Wall Street wiped out $50 billion in a week. Prices spiked and shortages plagued consumers. Forecasts say sales could drop by 700,000 units this year, with prices up $5,855 per car. S&P Global Mobility predicts up to 20,000 vehicles a day idled. Tesla, relying on Canadian nickel, lithium, and aluminum, slowed Nevada and California lines. Wait times stretched from 2 weeks to 2 months, jeopardizing the 6 million car 2025 goal. Shares tanked, and UBS and Mizuho cut targets to $190 and $375. Ford isn't safe either. More than a quarter of output in Michigan and Kentucky missed shipping windows, piling up losses and extra costs. Consumers foot the bill. New vehicles jumped over 15% in weeks, putting them out of reach for millions. Used car prices exploded. Some second-hand trucks now cost more than new ones simply because they're on the lot. Over 50,000 workers lost jobs in the first month, especially in Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky, amplifying social anxiety. Carney avoided brutal sanctions, opting for slower border checks, shipment delays, and disrupted supply chains. That squeezes the U.S. economy, projects Canada as a fair partner, and draws capital from Asia and Europe now eyeing Canada and Mexico. If manufacturers redirect investment, America's influence could erode. It's a historic turn. China and Europe are moving in. China, with access to Canadian minerals, is pouring money into EVs. Chinese plants in Mexico already aim for the U.S. market tariff-free. Europe is shifting capital to Canada and Mexico too. Big European brands, once loyal to the U.S., are withdrawing and seeking steadier partners. With global competition rising, Tesla, Ford, and GM must restructure production while facing ever-present rivals. The iPhone's price could jump from $1,599 to $2,300. Apple just chartered planes to fly in 600 tons of iPhones from India, 1.5 million units, to dodge huge tariffs. But while Apple sidesteps taxes, can Americans dodge the tab? Facing tariff war, Apple took an unprecedented step. It flew those phones from India, not as a test, but a calibrated response to new levies strangling firms tied to Chinese factories. The move jolted the tech world. Apple is reshaping its global chain, once centered in China, now betting heavily on India, an emerging market with cheaper labor and friendlier trade ties to the U.S. Since April 2025, Washington has imposed tariffs up to 125% on Chinese electronics, up from 54%. That makes Chinese gadgets almost unviable stateside. And Apple, like many giants, is rethinking everything. India looks viable. Lower wages, incentives, no big penalties. Yet it's more than taxes, also a hedge against geopolitical risk. Still, can India fill China's shoes after 20 years? Rosenblatt Securities estimates the new tariff would push the iPhone 16 Pro Max from $1,599 to $2,300 if assembly stays in China. Even shifting production, prices won't freeze. Building new plants, logistics, and low initial yields raise costs. Consumers, used to steady pricing, will pay the tariff war phone by phone. Apple isn't just relocating some output. It's reorganizing its chain to make India a primary hub. China remains a giant with refined logistics, but over-reliance on one nation became a strategic liability. If this works, other tech titans may follow, triggering a mass exodus from China and rattling jobs and supply lines at home. The tariff policy aimed to shield domestic industry. Reality may backfire. Firms chase cheaper sites, shoppers pay more, and the economy faces a new imbalance. Meanwhile, smaller tech firms are watching Apple's gamble like a dress rehearsal for their own exits. If the Cupertino giant can retool production pipelines in under a year, what's to stop wearable startups or laptop makers from doing the same? Supply chain consultants are already fielding frantic calls from CEOs who once swore they'd never leave Shenzhen. Each relocation plan siphons know-how and auxiliary jobs away from the U.S., eroding the very manufacturing renaissance those tariffs were supposed to spark. On Main Street, the ripple effects are multiplying. Higher sticker prices on cars and phones feed directly into headline inflation, and the Federal Reserve faces the impossible choice of hiking rates into a slowdown or tolerating a new price spiral. Families postpone big-ticket purchases, retailers slash orders, and the service sector, once cushioned by consumer confidence, starts to wobble. The irony is brutal. Protectionist walls meant to safeguard the American worker are now squeezing the same paychecks they claimed to defend. Abroad, allies weigh their options. Japan nurtures fresh joint ventures with India to secure chip supplies, while Germany courts Canadian lithium producers to escape Washington's unpredictability. Even close partners whisper that the United States, long the anchor of global trade stability, has become the biggest variable in the equation. That perception alone nudges capital to quieter harbors where policy swings aren't measured in midnight tweets. Back in Washington, the political class feuds over who shoulders the blame, but voters are growing deaf to the shouting. They see jobs vanishing in Michigan, smartphones priced like laptops, and a newspaper economy section that reads like a thriller gone wrong. If this chapter proves anything, it's that shockwave politics may win a news cycle, yet governing by detonation leaves nothing but rubble for the next occupant to clear.